Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to show you how you can set up an animator for your characters or any other objects really in Unity. And just a disclaimer, I'm not an artist, I did not make this model. I got it from the asset store for free. I'll have a link below if you want to use it too. And lucky for us, it came with some animations too. So we're going to be setting up an animator today that our character will be able to run/walk. It'll stop when we're not running, and any other fun ones we might try to add too. We'll see. So for my scene so far, I've just got some basic third-person character movement. Character just moves around like this. If you want to see how to do this, I have another video that should be out, I think, before this one, where I show you how to do this kind of character movement and camera movement. If you want to learn that first, you can check that out. But it looks kind of awkward right now because our character is just in the idle animation the whole time, so let's fix that. So the asset comes with an animator already made. It just has the idle animation in it, but if you wanted to make a new animator, you can just right click, go to create, and then an animator controller. So create pretty much the same thing, just without the animation in it. But I'll just use the one that's already hooked up to it for now. Again, if it wasn't hooked up already though, you can just, in your character here, add a component, and it would be animator, just like that. And then you would drag your animator that you made as an asset into the controller spot. And if you have an avatar, put the avatar in there too. So this is the one they have set up already. As I said before, it's already got the idle animation in here. And as you can see, this one's already set up. It's got the idle animation in it. We just set to 1, but we want to be able to move from this idle state from when we're not moving to a run or a walk state. I haven't seen what they have yet, but so if you want to see the list of animations that you currently have in your project from here, you can just click on the little circle target thing here and it'll bring up a list of them. And let's see, what do we got? I see a run forward animation here, so let's try that. So now our run forward animation is in this state. Let's rename it too. Now we can create a transition from our idle state by right clicking and drag it to our run forward. And then we'll also want to get back to the idle state from the run forward state too. Let's just make a transition back just like that. Now that we have our transitions here, you can see that you can preview the transition between them. So let's just do that. You can see that we go from the idle state to the running state, and Unity kind of does the in-between parts for you. So now we need to know when we want to transition from our idle state to our running state. So to do that, we can set up a parameter here. Let's make it a float and let's call it speed. So now in our transition from idle to run forward, we can create a new condition. And since speed is our only parameter, it'll be there by default. And we'll say that if our speed is greater than, let's say, just 0.01, make it something small, then transition to run forward. And likewise, in run forward to idle transition, I'll make it speed is less than 0.01. It'll transition back to the idle state. So I've got this player movement script set up from my last video. Again, if you want to learn how to do all of this, you can go check that out. But for this video, what we want to do first is create an animator variable. We'll just do private animator, and we'll just call it animator. And then in our start method here, we want to get a reference to it. And since it's attached to the object that this script is also attached to, we can just do animator equals get component, and then animator. I'm also going to set up another float here called just speed that we will pass into the animator as the speed parameter. And then down in my movement section of my update method is where I'm going to write the animator code. So now we need to set that speed variable before we pass it into the animator. So to do that, I'm actually going to make a vector2 first, and I'm not very creative right now, so let's just call it inputs. And this is going to be a new vector2 that'll take in our move x and move y variables that are being set by how much we're pressing down on the WASD keys or the arrow keys or controller joystick. And then our speed is just going to be that input and dot magnitude. So if we are pressing down keys, then the speed will be set to something above 0.01. Doesn't really matter too much what in this case. And then if we're not moving, not pressing any of the keys, the speed will be 0. We will go back to our idle state. Now we need to pass the speed variable that we just made into the animator. So to do that, you can do animator.setFloat, put in the name that you called it before, so speed for this case, and then pass in the variable that you want to set it to. Base speed again, lowercase this time. Maybe you could have made some better variables to get less confused, but it is what it is at this point. So I'm going to drag my animator down to the bottom here so we can have a look at it while we try running the game. We've got our animator all set up here with the controller and the avatar plugged in already. Let's click play and see what happens. So I'm not clicking anything yet. You can see we're in the idle state there. If you look at the animator at the bottom, you can see the idle is looping. Now if I press W, I take a little bit to start running, but eventually I do, as you can see, and I'll tell you why in a second that that's happening. But you can see that as I'm running around, the run animation is playing and looping, so that's looking good. And if we stop, the run animation lasts a little bit longer there, and then it transitions to the idle. So I'll show you now why those animations were taking a little bit to exit, and it's because in the transitions here in our animator, exit time is on. So what that'll do is if it has exit time, it'll finish its current loop before it transitions to the next animation. We want to turn that off. If we're running, we want to start running right away. And if we're idling, we want to start idling right away too. We can turn both of those off. And now let's try it out again. So as you can see, we're standing still again. And right away, once I start moving, the run animation starts. And pretty much right away, when I stop moving, the idle animation starts too. It's a lot smoother than before. So I also saw that there was a jump animation that came with this asset, so let's make a jump animation too. So let's create a new state again, and then go and find the jump animation. There we go. And now we want to be able to jump from either the idle state or the running state. At least for this case I want to, so I'm going to make a transition from both the idle state and back to the idle state, and from the run forward and back to the run forward. Let's name this state jump to, just so you know what we're doing. And this time, instead of using a float, since jump will just be, I'll set it up so it's just on space press, we can actually just use a trigger. And let's just call it jump to make things easy. And then for a transition here from idle to jump, we want to add condition jump. This time you don't have to set anything here, it'll just happen if that trigger is set. And we can take a look at our preview here too, idle to jumping. And then in this case, we do want to have exit time on so that when the jump animation is finished, it'll automatically go back to the idle animation. And same case here for run forward to jump, we want it so that it's getting set on the jump trigger. We can take a look at this preview too. And we want to make sure to turn exit time off on that too, and make sure you do it on the idle to jump too. This is one thing I've run into when setting up my animators before, is I'll always forget to turn exit times off and then have to go through again and do it. But then you do want exit time on for the jump back to the run forward, but it will finish the animation. I also noticed if we look at the previews here, at least from the run forward to the, you can see that there's a little bit of time at the end where he's just kind of standing still. So I don't really want that. So you can actually edit how long your animations last in Unity. So if I go to where the jump animation is stored here and click on the edit, I can actually control what frames the animation starts on and what frame the animation ends on. If I go to like here and I want to say, okay, I want the jump to actually end on frame 36, I can click on the jump here, make sure you're on the one that you want to change, and go to the end variable here and change that so it actually ends on 36. And now it won't be standing around for as long, even though it's a fraction of an amount of time. It's still good to show you off that you can do that too. You can also see that there's some other things you can mess around with in here too. I won't get into it too much, but one of the more important ones is the loop time. If you wanted this animation to loop, you'd have to check that off. If we go to the run forward here, you can see that since we saw that it was looping, you can see that the loop time is on for this one by default. Let's go back to the animator now. I think everything should be all set up. We need to set up the code now though. I'll just go back into my script here and I'll write just a quick jump method. It won't be anything too crazy. All we'll do is I'll just write a comment here to say that this is the jump. And honestly, all I'm going to do is animator, and then this time instead of set float, it'll be .set trigger. And this time you just have to pass in the name too, so we called it jump. And I need to make sure that this will be triggered by something too, not every frame like it would be right now. We'll just do if input get key down, and we'll do key code space, and then just put our animator set trigger inside of that. Now back in the scene here, let's try running this. I like having the animator down at the bottom too, just to keep track of what's going on. So we'll run around a little bit. I'll stand still again, and let's try a jump. We do a little jump there, looking good. We'll run around now and try it out. You might want to make it so that your character stops while you do the jump, or set up your animations that they... Hey everyone, it's future me again. I realized why the character was sliding a little bit after the jump while he was running, and that was because it was getting set back to idle by default because I forgot to put the speed condition in the transition back to either run forward or idle. But to fix that, all I did was just add a condition to the transition from jump to run forward, which is the same as going from idle to run forward, just speed is greater than 0.01, and same for jump, except this time speed is less than 0.01. Now if we run it again, you'll see that I'm running now, and if I do the jump, it goes right back into the run after the jump's done, instead of going to the idle first and like looking like it's sliding. So that's just a little bit of a polish there, and something I forgot about the first time, but that fixes that. So I think that'll be it for this one. If you learned anything from this, make sure you leave a like, maybe subscribe too. If you want to see a more in-depth tutorial where I go into some bigger animators, maybe get into even masking too, let me know in the comments. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.